Miami's season is on the brink. So, what can they do differently in game 4? We'll go through emergency options, changes to the lineup, and other possibilities on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. For daily content on the Heat, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you are following us on your podcast app. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about what this playoff series means for guys like Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo going forward. We have a question about Miami's break glass in emergency option. We are recording this on Monday morning. Game 4 is tonight in Miami. We know where this is going, David. We know how this series is going to play out sooner or later. But I do want to get to some things that we hope to see in Game 4 in a second. But I want to start today by talking about top locking, because this was the big theme coming out of Game 3. Danny Cunningham from Locked On Cavs and I talked about this after Game 3 on Saturday in the post-game show, because both the Heat locker room and the Cavs locker room ended up talking about top locking quite a bit. And, we've gotten some questions and stuff, and we didn't have a chance to fully explain what top locking is, even though we saw it in Game 3 quite a bit. So I wanted to take a moment here because, number one, this might be one of our last chances to talk about actual basketball for a little while. So an excuse for that. But also I think it's really important because it's going to determine how Game 4 plays out as well on Monday night. So top locking essentially is when the defender is going to try to pin a player or prevent a player from reaching the three-point line. Right, so you've seen guys like Kyle Korver back in the day used to get top locked all the time. Where when he was on the Hawks, they'd bring the ball up. Korver would go to the corner where he's spacing the floor, and then you would see a player on the other team kind of face guard him and prevent him just from moving up from the corner to getting up the three-point arc and getting open for a three-pointer, because he was just so singularly dangerous in that way. And, a lot of, they've done this to Steph Curry, Klay Thompson over the years. A lot of guys, James Harden, Damian Lillard, these guys have all seen versions of this offense because it's meant to basically deny getting the ball. This is more than just chasing a guy off the three-point line. You're not even going to go get to the three-point line, right? So it is a pretty extreme example of defense. And there are ways to counter it, as most extreme defenses tend to do. There's obvious counters, and I don't think Miami did the best job countering that in Game 3 that we'll touch on here in a second. But David, what did you think about the top lock? We saw it mostly Max Strus kind of just face guarding Tyler Herro. You would see Tyler Herro just pinned in the corner for long stretches, especially in that second half against Cleveland in Game 3. And that's essentially what it looks like is, hey, we're not even going to let you move. We're going to basically trap you in the corner, and then we're going to play 4-on-4 basketball on the other side of the court. And that's essentially how the game played out. What did you think about the top lock, and how did you think Tyler and the Heat handled it in Game 3, David?
What did I think? I thought it was really effective. I mean, they took Tyler out of the game. They made Miami's offense look one-dimensional. They flattened everything out, and nobody else really stepped up to the challenge. They made things so difficult for Tyler that they forced everybody else to try and generate offense for themselves at a high level and be productive. And well, you could see based on Miami's output, really didn't work. So not only are Cleveland's defenders doing a good job on Herro, but they're doing a good job of everybody else, because you don't have anybody else on this roster who is a naturally gifted scorer. Bam Adebayo struggles with it. Andrew Wiggins struggles with it. Nikola Jovic still rounding into form. You don't have any other options. They keep denying Miami good looks at the rim. They keep challenging them from the three-point line. There are no easy answers for this team offensively, especially when you're able to shut down Tyler Herro as effectively as you did. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, that it took them 3 games to figure this out. I guess after being competitive in Game 2 and challenging them up until the last minute or so of regular season basketball, not regular season, regular game basketball there, they I guess realized that, you know what, we could just take Tyler out and will be a lot more effective. Nobody else is really stepping up, and they've seen it. Like Wiggins in particular, I think looked a little scared at the moment. He just hasn't stepped up. He might still be dealing with lingering injury or something along those lines. Bam Adebayo, just with everything else he's doing, he hasn't stepped up either. I mean, even guys like Duncan Robinson just can't seem to get a good look or don't feel comfortable shooting them. Nobody seems to be able to generate any offense on this team aside from the occasional Davion Mitchell spurt. That's really the only offense they were able to generate. So Miami's offense has been completely reduced to inefficiency.
Yeah, 4-on-4 basketball. Mitchell, I thought actually, like in sort of this ad hoc offense that ended up being the case at the end. He was like, okay, I guess it's just me running the offense now, and screens with Khalil Ware or Bam Adebayo and stuff. And I didn't think he did a terrible job, all things considered. But Cleveland's bigs, first of all, deserve such a shout out. Evan Mobley, Defensive Player of the Year. Jarrett Allen. They have done such a good job switching on to Tyler Herro, Davion Mitchell, Duncan Robinson. You mentioned Duncan, they have done such a good job kind of shrinking the space, even with those guys coming off of high screens and stuff like that. I think they deserve a huge shout out because they've really kind of changed the tone of or dictated the tone of this series. In terms of the counters, what can Miami do going forward? So I mentioned how the top block is pretty extreme, right? Because the defender is anticipating that Max Strus, essentially in this top block, is anticipating Tyler Herro to do this one thing, which is to come up and get the ball, right? Up above the break. So he's going to plant himself between Tyler Herro and his path. He's basically just going to put himself right in the path, right on the train tracks, right? And that's pretty extreme because that basically opens up all the other train tracks. And I guess that's what I'm confused by is when Max Strus is pinning himself between Tyler Herro and the screen above the break, the usual counter for being top blocked for a guy in Tyler Herro's position would be to hit those backdoor cuts. But Cleveland's two bigs, and they play those two bigs, they have so much size across their lineup, they even kind of take away that backdoor cut stuff. Even if Tyler Herro is able to kind of scram free for a backdoor cut, there's just so many like long limbs and stuff in between whoever has the ball up high and where Tyler Herro is trying to cut. And Tyler Herro's not exactly a big target either, right? It's not exactly like throwing a lob to Khalil Ware. So it's just a little bit different. But I'm surprised we didn't see more backdoor cuts. But then the other obvious thing is, and this is what I do think will happen if we see Cleveland go with the top block scheme again, because maybe they don't. We could see them just say, you know what, that was a one-off. We know that Spo's going to come out and counter. Maybe we just don't even bother with the top block until the second half unless we feel like we need it, but maybe we don't start with it. It'll be interesting to see how Cleveland comes out with it. But if they do introduce it right away, the obvious thing to me would be for Tyler Herro to hit that backdoor cut and then come back around and then have Miami set a pin down on the other side so that basically you lose Max Strus in one corner, you fly around the other corner, and there's no way Max is not keeping up with Tyler Herro on that, and he's not preventing the shot without fouling, right? They'd have to switch it at the pin down spot on the other side, which Cleveland has shown very capable of doing, but it would at least be the obvious counter, I think, for Miami is, okay, instead of having Tyler come up from that corner and come up the same side, above the break on the same side of the court, have him just go backdoor, just sprint all the way around, have somebody pin down on the other elbow, and have him come off of that shot for a screen, come off of that screen for a shot. That to me would be the obvious counter.
Yeah, in theory, it sounds like it would work, but again, I think given the versatility of Cleveland's bigs, it's a little bit more of a better option, perhaps. But can whoever sets that pin down screen, would they be able to take advantage of Strus and be able to generate something offensively? That seems also like a big question that Miami has not been able to figure out how to answer. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like there are a lot of options right now. This is maybe overly simplistic, but it also looks like Miami just is clearly outmatched at almost every position, and they can't seem to generate any sort of disadvantage in their favor. I mean, as competitive as they were in game 2, well, they answered that real quick. I mean, they lost that game anyway, despite that, and they had the superstar and Donovan Mitchell step up in those moments. And then in game 3, well, they were just completely blown out, and that was, I think, more like the norm rather than anything else. So you could make the case that maybe in game 2, Cleveland had taken their foot off the gas a little bit. Miami seemed to figure some things out and were shooting at a pretty high level, and that was what allowed them to remain as competitive as they were. In game 3, Cleveland just said, no, we're not taking any chances. We're not playing with our food.
Yeah, they shut the water off completely. A couple other things too. I mean, even when it is 4-on-4, if Tyler Herro's just going to be in the corner, kind of just hanging out, trapped there, the spacing when it's 4-on-4 has to be a lot better too, right? You would think with fewer players involved, the spacing could be a little bit better, and I just thought it was really bad. It was just like staggered screens, guys standing in the same place. I think that would be another thing that Spoelstra, when he's looking at the film, is like, hey, if Tyler Herro does end up trapped in the corner here, because it's going to happen, right? This guy can't run for 48 straight minutes. Our spacing just in these 4-on-4 situations have to be way better. And then the other thing too would be when Bam has the ball, or rather, when Bam has the ball, I would have him facilitating on the same side of if Tyler Herro is going to be trapped in that corner, the big man who's by the basket for Cleveland, or whoever the low man, whoever is by the basket, usually a big man for Cleveland, has to be aware of that backdoor cut. If Tyler Herro starts hitting him with that backdoor cut, which means that big man has to play back. They can't play all the way up on Bam. Yeah. So if Tyler Herro starts hitting those backdoor cuts a little bit, if he's pinned down in that corner and starts getting out of there with backdoor cuts, that could free stuff open up for Bam at the top if his guy has to play back, has to completely be in drop to prevent that backdoor cut from happening, which I don't know that Cleveland will even do that. They might say, Tyler Herro, you're welcome to try to backdoor cut us because you're not that big of a target and we feel like we could probably deflect the pass.
Yeah.
Or at least contest it once you catch the ball on the cut. But I think that's just something interesting that Bam should be looking at as well. So
here's a question.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Why can't Herro just beat Strus off the ball? Like when he has get them the ball in the corner or whatever, and have him attack Max Strus. Like, isn't Tyler capable at this point? Like Strus is an
isolation
defender. Yeah. Like I feel like so much of Miami's offense is these constant screens and rescreens and trying to get Tyler open or Duncan, especially when he comes in there and trying to get him some space. But like Cleveland doesn't need that kind of space. They don't need all that off-ball movement. And I know maybe that's the difference between, say, a Donovan Mitchell and a Tyler Herro, but can't Tyler get open against Max Strus?
It's a great call, right?
Just let it fly.
Starting from that spot in the corner, that's just a tough spot. It's kind of, you're trying to beat this guy in a phone booth kind of thing. But there's plenty of reason to, just give Tyler Herro the ball at half court and let him go to work. Don't set these screens. Just attack him. Just clear out. I'm with you. I think maybe they've relied a little bit too much on the pick and roll game with Tyler Herro and just say, well, Strus is going to be guarding him. Everybody clear out and let him go to work. I think that's a great call. And that kind of lends itself to what we want to talk about here next. Like I said, we kind of know how this series is going to end up, but we also know that we need to see more of some of these Heat players in Game 4. We're going to talk about that now here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are here, and there's no better time to turn your sports knowledge into cash with Prize Picks, the top destination for daily fantasy action. Prize Picks makes it simple. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even mix and match players across basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Let's say you want to, maybe, I don't know, Nikola Jokic could go for more than 25 points, or maybe Jaylen Brown can go for more than 4 assists. Well, that's how you fix your lineup, and that's how it works. And the app makes it so easy. You can build a lineup in under 60 seconds with Taco Tuesday discounts and Flex Friday promos. There's even more value each week. And when you win, you get paid fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We'll be right back.
So Game 4 is tonight. We're going to talk about some things that we hope to see in Game 4. Look, David, we know how the series is going to end. It's either going to end tonight in Game 4 or Game 5 or something. The Heat are not winning this series. No team has ever come back from 0-3 to win a series, and there's no reason based on the first 3
games.
In
history again, baby. That's right. 10th seed in the playoffs. Let's do it. Two times in a row. Why not?
Well, 2 times in 3 years, I suppose. But
sure, why not?
Yeah, there's no evidence from the first 3 games that is going to happen.
Wow.
And you know what? It's okay. You can call, like, if people are going to say, hey, you're giving up and you're quitting on the team, it's like, dude, I don't know what series you were watching these first 3 games.
I'm totally 100% joking. Like, your fandom is fandom, and like I believe me, even if you dismiss my fandom or anything like that, even just from a podcaster's perspective, I want the season to go for as long as it possibly can, because off-season content is not always the best. And having said that, I don't see a realistic possibility for Miami to win 4 games in a row. I'd love them to be competitive and win game 4 and maybe even challenge them in game 5 or 6. I mean, well, it has to be game 5. They don't have any option to take any more games off the way they did game 3.
But let's talk about it. Game 4. What do we hope to see?
Right. Overarching in terms of the theme for this one, I want them to be really, really competitive. There were good vibes following game 2. I personally thought that they might be able to actually win game 3 back at home, especially coming off of the success from game 2. But clearly that wasn't the case. So just be really competitive. I don't know if that means anything, because a sweep is still a sweep. It has to be competitive and lead to a win, obviously, but I don't know how realistic that is. So at the very least, a high level of competition where they just don't look like, they don't look as bad as they did in game 3. That was an abysmal performance. And so to erase the stench of that, at least give you something to kind of look at and say, you know what, they tried their best. At least they were competitive and they faced a juggernaut in Cleveland. Something
resembling more of game 2 as opposed to game 3. I said, well, don't get blown out. And the thing that stood out to me about game 3 was you usually have that that kind of last gasp thing from the Heat, one last run in the third quarter or fourth quarter, be like, hey, we're down 20 points, but you're not going to beat us like this. You hear every coach, every player that comes into Miami's building, and they say, you have to play 48 minutes against that team. The Cavaliers did not have to play 48 minutes against the Heat in game 3. So I'm with you. Make it a little bit close. Just don't get embarrassed on your home court in the way that you got embarrassed on game 3. The number one thing I want to see, I just want to see Tyler Herro score 30 points. We just talked about all the adjustments, and a lot of it starts with Herro. A lot of it is also on the coaching staff. And Eric Spoelstra talked about at the end of the game 3 how tactically he had to be better in getting Tyler Herro better opportunities, and Bam Adebayo, who I also think needs to bounce back too. We'll talk about that as well. But I want Tyler Herro to just score 30 points and break this defense. To your point, David, and I'm so glad you brought it up. We could talk about all these, okay, they're top blocking you, and maybe you should do this and that and the other. But at the end of the day, if Tyler Herro is just beating his man, there's not much you could do about that. That's the best thing that could break a defense. And Tyler Herro he's not Anthony Edwards. He's not Luka Doncic. He's not LeBron James. He's not these guys that can just take their defender one-on-one, no matter the matchup, and just physically overpower them. But he is slippery. And he has a deep bag, and he is super skilled. And he's very smart as an offensive player and very aware of the openings and how he can, even in that game, you started to see him, even in the third quarter and fourth quarter, start to figure it out. He's like, okay, every time they get in the corner, they're going to do this to me. So instead of just sprinting to the corner and space on the floor, I'm going to cut through the defense, right through the foul line, and then try to create space that way. And he got some opportunities there. He even got, he started bringing the ball up and would initiate pick and roll early in the shot clock. And I thought he actually got some decent opportunities. But again, credit to guys like Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, even when they would get switched off of him, or onto him rather, they were just still closing space really quickly and flattening out that pick and roll attack. But you started to see Tyler start to figure it out and crack it. And I don't know, maybe if the game was 5 quarters long, maybe by the 5th quarter he cracks it. But that's what game 4 is for. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But to your point, David, too, it's like if you get a guy one-on-one, you got to just beat that guy. So he'll have counters. Yeah. I think one of the things that Miami can do is give him the ball early and then set that high screen and roll closer to the logo instead of right at the 3-point line, forcing Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley to defend even in more space, which maybe they're capable of doing, but I'd like to test it. Yep. And start doing some of that too.
I think it's a great call. To me, the word that keeps coming to mind is cadence. Like for Tyler, he's not strong enough. He's not fast. Like you said, he's not these guys who are going to overpower you. But we've seen him generate the offense consistently over the course of the season because he has his own unique rhythm that he plays to. And that's what is his greatest strength. And we have not seen him And you have to give 100% credit to Cleveland's defenders for doing this. They take him out of his natural cadence. And so he's either playing too slow, trapped in the corner, or he's playing too rushed, trying to force something that can't work against Cleveland's bigs. And so it's about him finding that rhythm and saying, you know what, this is what works. Get Max into foul trouble. Get whoever's on him into foul trouble. Use your natural rhythm rather than playing against it and fighting it the way he has. And I know it's because he's really being pressured so well defensively that he has no choice but to try and do things differently than what he's used to. He's like, hey, I've got 5 seconds on the shot clock. I better make something happen. I get that, but that doesn't work. That's not his strength. So I think it's a great call. Give him the ball early. Let him figure it out, because that's really Miami's only option. Because from there, it's a trickle effect where everybody else kind of has to figure out how to shift defensively. It's like, oh, okay, Tyler's getting his. We got to be able to play a little bit more off ball, defend a little bit, hedge somewhat. And then that leaves opportunities for everybody else to cut, maybe more off ball movement that can generate an easy score at the rim, because Miami doesn't have any other options. They don't have that overpowering score.
When you're talking about the cadence, it reminds me a little bit of the Boston series last year, where Tyler Herro was just thrown the kitchen sink, right? Jimmy Butler gets hurt in the play-in tournament. Terry Rozier's out. Duncan Robinson's out with the back problems. He is their only on-ball option in that series. Right. And Boston was like, okay, here's Derek White. Here's Jason Tatum. Here's Jaylen Brown. Figure it out. And Tyler Herro did not. But it also set him up for the offseason to figure out, okay, this is what it's like to live as the number one scoring option without Jimmy here. And maybe he didn't know that he was going to be the number one scoring option this soon, but he prepared in the offseason as if he was going to be. And we've seen, like, all-star berth, an incredible season. Tyler Herro's best season of his career. There was another level, though, to get to. And maybe whatever Cleveland is throwing at him here can kind of prompt him to hit that next level. We talked about Bam Adebayo. That's the other thing I want to see, is just a big Bam game. You talk about not being embarrassed on your home floor, living up to the moment, being competitive. Bam should be the best center in this series, and he has not played like it. I think that's fair. I think it's a fair criticism, even though we know game 2, they kind of got away from him a little bit, made him more, in terms of a scorer, made him more of a facilitator, and that worked. It was a competitive game, so you can't really knock the process just because of the result. It was a competitive game, and I think it worked offensively. And if he's able to get guys like Tyler Herro and Andrew Wiggins and Nikola Jovic going, then that's his role in that game. I don't know what it looks like, but I would like a combined, 24 to 25 points and assists, something like that from Bam. Just a whole, it doesn't have to be like Tyler Herro score 30 points. It just has to be, Bam, I need you to put your fingerprints all over this basketball game.
Well, he'll certainly try. It's interesting, even as we're talking about this right now, the lens that we view these players is so different, because Tyler doesn't do all the other things well. And so when his scoring is impacted as much as it has been this series, it's easy to criticize that one thing. It's like, oh, why can't you just go and do X, meaning 30 points really. And then with Bam, all these other things get obfuscated, but it's still the same thing. This is his first season really as, if not the number one option, the number 2 option. Clearly the guy who has to step up in terms of scoring. And while he was that to some degree with Jimmy Butler last year, it was a little different. You had guys like the Struces and the Vincents and the Robinsons that kind of supplement that scoring. And Tyler, other guys that would be more expected to at least spread the floor or do things a little differently so that they weren't just targeting you. But if you can shut down Tyler, and then it makes it that much easier to simplify what Bam gives you offensively, that makes things so much more difficult for him. And so he's struggling in that regard. Like, I think it's fair to criticize what we've seen from him, albeit, he had a decent game from the perimeter on game 3. It wasn't nearly enough. Like, he has to be much more.
And some of those,
I know it sounds ad nauseum here, but he has to be more aggressive.
He does. And those 3-point shots are nice. I don't even really count them. It just sounds unfair, like, but a couple of bailout shots, and from the corner, it's like, all right, cool, you make those. I feel a lot better about those.
20.
Yeah, and I feel a lot better about those if it's like a close game in the fourth quarter. It's like, wow, big shot, Bam, that actually means something.
Yes.
Versus bail out a shot clock in a blowout game. I don't really care about it. The season is on the line now. Is it time for Spo to break the glass in case of emergency? We'll talk about the listener's idea from an email now here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Because right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today, but only when you go visit FanDuel.com. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's get to some emails here from some listeners. Josh writes in, isn't it time to break glass in case of emergency and just spam the Duncan Robinson, Bam Adebayo pick and roll? Let Tyler run off the ball and get what he gets. I don't care about the defensive liability anymore. Cleveland is going to score 120 anyway. Let's just try to score 130. What exactly do we have to lose? Duncan is arguably our third best offensive player, and he barely plays. It's been a long time since I played basketball, but I believe you have to put the ball in the hoop if you want to win the game.
Sarcasm. No way.
That's good writing. When those two guys are in sync, they're hard to stop. I have been a little, and here's my answer at this point. I have been a little confused about why Duncan is only playing 13 to 15 minutes per game in this series. Defensively, there is something that you have to provide some interference, even if you do think that Cleveland's just going to score 120. But I do think Josh has a good point. I'm a little surprised that Duncan Robinson hasn't played more, especially in Game 3. The Heat they have to get up more threes. It is clear after 3 games they're just not going to generate a lot of looks at the rim. So the only way to keep up with Cleveland is to do it from beyond the arc, and Duncan Robinson obviously would be a huge factor in that, but we've seen a lot of Pelle Larsson. We've seen a lot of Nikola Jovic, who, coming off that hand injury, I don't know if you've noticed this, David, every single shot he's taken that he misses is short. I mean, that screams to me that the hand is still bothering him.
Yeah.
So I'm at the point now where I'd say, bring Duncan off the bench and let it fly.
Well, that's the problem, is you need to let it fly. And that's something that Duncan's not doing. Like, when he was first having his taste of success as a starter alongside Jimmy Butler, you had Jimmy initiating offense, you had Tyler complimenting him, you had Bam Adebayo doing his thing, you had Goran Dragic out there, you had guys that were on ball, and Duncan was more of an off-ball shooter. He could just catch and shoot and let it fly. Now you're trying to incorporate him to these pick and rolls and everything else like that. And yes, it has worked in the past, but it doesn't work if you don't shoot the ball. Like, you were seeing DeAndre damn Hunter, you're just going off and letting it fly over a defender. Why can't Duncan Robinson do that? I don't know. I maybe I can't figure it out. But Duncan is just, he seems hesitant. Again, you're 6'7", dude. Like, I know you can't barely jump over a sheet of paper, but you can shoot over guys. And there are very few defenders that are going to be able to extend and challenge that shot. But there's something about him that where he feels like his shot is going to get blocked at every opportunity. And that is just not the case. Like, he is too good a shooter, and he's just coming off these screens. He gives the ball back to the screen or tries to work his way around. It's like, you know what? That's it. That's 10 seconds off the shot clock. And now you're going to either get a bad shot or you have to look for something else. When you come around that screen first time, let it fly. Just shoot it. Because otherwise you're not going to get the shot and you're not going to be able to do anything.
So a few things on this. Number one, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's a little confusing. Obviously, Duncan is weirdly more comfortable shooting it on the move off of a handoff than he is just pulling up, which is probably the opposite for every other basketball player on planet Earth. It's a weird thing, but obviously Duncan is more comfortable with that. The second thing is another reason why to set those screens a little bit higher and give them a little bit more space. And you watch where these screens are being set, and it's consistently right at the 3-point line. I would be setting these screens 35 feet away from the basket. Bam should have a foot on the logo, on the Heat logo at center court when he's setting these screens. There's no reason why not. Give them more space and do all that. The third thing here is, while we're talking about this, maybe more of a reason to play Duncan with Tyler Herro, because if they're going to be top blocking Tyler Herro, you can't do it also against Duncan, because now you've got two defenders that you're having just pin these guys in the corner, and now your defense is very compromised in that sense. So they can't do it against both of these guys. So if you're going to take Tyler Herro out, all the more reason to have Duncan Robinson then doing all those things that Tyler Herro isn't able to do if he's pinned in the corner. So in one sense, I agree with you, David. Like if you're going to play Duncan Robinson more, he's got to let it fly, right? You have to have the compliance part of it in terms of,
Sure.
hey, this is what we're doing. Do it. This is the plan. Execute the plan. But I wonder if that would, maybe this is also more of a reason to play him and Tyler together in this specific matchup. Also, I don't know. It is a break glass in case of emergency in terms of, hey, this is that lineup that we kind of decided doesn't work because defensively it's a problem.
Yeah.
But to Josh's point, if we've already sort of baked in that defense is a problem anyway, then maybe we'll just lean all the way. Anything else on this before we get to? Go ahead.
Would you start him?
Well, let's get to that. Ryan writes in, is it time to start Haywood over Wiggins? Wiggins looks lost and a liability on offense. Also, Jovic should play with Davion Mitchell or when Davion Mitchell is on the bench so we consistently have somebody who's going to push the pace. So let's open up the starting lineup conversation, in other words. I would not start Duncan. No, I would start Davion Mitchell, Tyler Herro, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, Khalil. I would just start the same group from the last two games. You can't
go with Wiggins.
I would go with Wiggins. You can't go with Haywood over Wiggins. You can't do it. You can't do it.
Why?
Because we know where the series is going, and you're going to bench maybe your best trade chip. That's just not a good look. You got to,
okay.
and we didn't even get to.
If you're
the other thing I'm hoping
sense,
for is a big Wiggins game in this game. It might be the most important thing they can get.
That's fair. Like I don't know that this series has necessarily hurt his trade value, but it certainly hasn't helped.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. If the benching move comes, it feels like a further blow to his self-esteem and to his productivity and everything else. And again, his trade value.
And it hurts negotiations, right? I mean, Pat Riley gets on the phone. He's like, we're offering you Wiggins for and blah, blah, blah for Durant. And you know, whoever's in charge of the Suns is going to say that guy you benched in a playoff game. That's what I don't think that benching him changes the way front offices across the league actually think of Andrew Wiggins, but it hurts you in terms of leverage and negotiations. You can't do it.
Fair enough.
Would you make any changes to the starting lineup?
No. You're trotting out what you can out there. Like Wiggins remains an X factor. It remains a little difficult to see why he can't be a little bit more productive given his skill set. And I know maybe maybe he's not comfortable in where he is right now playing alongside Tyler and where he's kind of reduced in terms of his role on the offense, but he's still good enough in theory. Like he should have some kind of comfort level considering how often he had to play alongside a guy like Steph Curry. So it's not to say Steph Curry and Tyler Herro are the same players, but you know what your role is going to be and you have to be able to maximize it or else what the hell are you doing out there? And so I'm a little surprised. I can only say that maybe there might be some kind of injury issue because other than that, he just does not look like the type of player that we expected him to be when he joined Miami. Donovan
Mitchell, because Max Strus is starting on Herro, Donovan Mitchell is the guy that is Wiggins' primary defender to start these games. And then, you know, they get into their rotation. It's a lot of DeAndre Hunter and stuff like that. But to start these games, it's Donovan Mitchell. If I'm the Heat, I want to punish that. Mitchell's not a bad defender. But Wiggins is substantially taller than him, and there should be something that Wiggins can do to start these games. And when you kind of look at the first couple plays in Game 4, I wouldn't be surprised if it was, hey, let's get Wiggins going. Let's see how they're going to guard Tyler Herro. We'll see what they want to do with Bam. But maybe we just get Andrew Wiggins going downhill and pick and roll and get, or even in isolation against Donovan Mitchell. Because, you know, I think maybe something we hit on here is maybe it's too much pick and roll stuff here. It's obviously not working. Maybe just let these guys try to beat their guys. All right. Bench guys, real quick. It's been Pelle Larsson, Haywood Highsmith, Duncan Robinson the last few games. I don't know that and Nikola Jovic. I don't know that there's going to be any major changes there. Maybe, you know, there's Jaime Jaquez who got some garbage time, Kyle Anderson who got some garbage time, but I don't really see any changes coming from the bench.
Terry Rozier.
Who's in a walking boot. So, could be worse though. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts.